Have you ever wondered why some people lose respect for you for no apparent reason? Get ready, because in this video, we're going to explore the 9 attitudes or behaviors that could be sabotaging your image without you even realizing it. From the impact of punctuality to the importance of keeping your promises, we'll look at how these habits influence how others perceive you. At the end of the video, I'll share with you one crucial tip that could change the way you're viewed forever. But before we get started, if you find value in these videos, please subscribe and click the bell to stay updated. Now I want you to pay close attention to this story, as it will be very important for you to understand the big lesson in this video. In ancient Greece, there was a philosopher named Diogenes. This guy was known for living in a barrel. Yes, you heard right, a barrel. And for his brash attitude towards, well, pretty much everything and everyone. One day, Alexander the Great himself came to visit him, impressed by his fame. When the great conqueror asked him if he needed anything, Diogenes simply replied, "Yes, to stand back a bit, you're blocking my sun." Now, while Diogenes' audacity is legendary, it's not exactly the kind of attitude I'd recommend if you want to maintain the respect of others. In fact, it's a perfect example of the first attitude on our list: overweening arrogance. Have you ever come across someone who seems to think the world revolves around them? Welcome to the fascinating universe of arrogance. The first attitude on our list of how to lose the respect of others faster than an ice cream melt in summer is overweening arrogance. Arrogance is like that friend who always has to tell a better story than you. But why is arrogance so repellent? Imagine you're at a party and someone walks in shouting, "The life of the party has arrived." I bet all eyes would do an Olympic spin in their sockets. Arrogance is exactly that, but in everyday life. Now, let's not confuse confidence with arrogance. Confidence is like a good perfume. It attracts people. Arrogance, on the other hand, is like bathing in that perfume. It drives everyone away within a 10-kilometer radius. A study conducted by the University of Akron and the University of Michigan revealed something interesting. Arrogance not only ruins your personal relationships, but it can also hurt your performance at work. It turns out that arrogant people tend to overestimate their abilities and underestimate those of others. It's like believing you can win a marathon without training because you once ran to catch the bus. This overestimation leads to errors in judgment and poor decisions. Imagine an arrogant chef who believes he doesn't need to taste his food before serving it. The result? Dishes that taste like cardboard with ego sauce. But how do you recognize if you're falling into the arrogance trap? Here are some signs. 1. If you think you are always right, even when Google tells you otherwise. 2. If you constantly interrupt others because obviously what you have to say is more important. 3. If you think the rules are for others, but not for you because you are too special. 4. If you think that saying thank you or apologizing is for wimps. If you identify with any of these, don't worry. The good news is that arrogance has a cure, and it's called humility. Humility does not mean putting yourself down. It is simply recognizing that, like everyone else, you have strengths and weaknesses. It is understanding that there is always something to learn from others, even from that coworker who seems like he was born yesterday. Practicing humility is like exercising your personality. It may be uncomfortable at first, but over time it will make you stronger and more attractive. In a good way, of course. So the next time you're tempted to brag or belittle the opinions of others, remember, true greatness doesn't need to announce itself loudly. As C.S. Lewis once said, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less. In short, if you want to earn the respect of others, let your actions speak for you. Be like that friend who is always willing to listen, learn, and help. That is the true recipe for success in personal and professional relationships. Let's move on to the second attitude on our list: chronic negativity. Imagine negativity is like gum stuck to your shoe. At first it's just a minor annoyance, but the more you walk around with it, the more it spreads, and the harder it is to get rid of. This is exactly how chronic negativity works in our lives. Did you know that chronic negativity can affect your health as much as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day? Yes, you heard that right. A study conducted by Stanford University showed that constant negative thoughts can increase levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, which in turn can lead to health problems like heart disease, obesity, and depression. It's like your brain is a DJ that just plays sad songs on loop. But don't worry, all is not lost. In fact, changing this attitude is easier than you think. Famed psychologist Martin Seligman, known as the father of positive psychology, developed a technique called ABCs to combat chronic negativity. A. Adversity. Identify the situation that is bothering you. B. Beliefs. Recognize the automatic negative thoughts that arise. C. Consequences. Observe how these thoughts affect your mood and behavior. Once you have identified these elements, you can begin to challenge and change those negative thoughts. It's like being the editor of your own mental movie. You don't like that scene, cut it and rewrite it. Another effective technique is the 21-day no complaining challenge proposed by Will Bowen. The idea is simple. Wear a bracelet and change it on your wrist every time you complain. The goal is to keep the bracelet on the same wrist for 21 days in a row. Sounds easy, right? Well, the average time it takes people to achieve this is 8 months. We're more complainers than we think. But why 21 days? According to studies by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, it takes approximately 21 days to form a new habit, although more recent research suggests it can range from 18 to 254 days, depending on the person and the habit. So, if after 21 days you're still complaining that your neighbor mows the lawn too early on Sundays, don't be discouraged. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was your positivity. Now, it's important to clarify that being positive doesn't mean ignoring real problems or pretending that everything is perfect. Rather, it's about approaching life's challenges with a constructive attitude. It's like being an optimistic detective. You recognize that there is a problem, but instead of complaining, you focus on finding solutions. The famous entrepreneur Richard Branson once said, "Don't complain, make things happen." And well, it seems to have worked for him. The guy has his own island and is planning trips to space. Meanwhile, many of us complain if our pizza takes longer than 30 minutes to arrive. Remember, chronic negativity is like a repellent magnet for people. No one wants to spend time with someone who constantly sees the glass as half empty, especially if that glass contains a delicious fruit smoothie. So, the next time you feel a complaint about to come out of your mouth, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, is this really that bad? Is there any way I can look at this differently? At the end of the day, life is too short to spend it complaining. And who knows, maybe by changing your attitude, you'll not only gain the respect of others, but you might find that you're happier after all. As the Greek philosopher Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Now, my friends, we come to the third attitude on our list. Lack of empathy, or as I call it, the superpower of making people want to run off in the opposite direction. Imagine for a moment that you're having the worst day of your life. Your boss yelled at you, your car broke down, and to top it off, you're out of coffee. You come home looking for some comfort, and your partner says, "Bad things happen to everyone, get over it." How would you feel? Probably feeling like packing your partner's bags and putting them on the curb, right? Empathy is like the oil in the engine of human relationships. Without it, everything starts to grind and eventually breaks down. But why is it so important? A fascinating study conducted by the University of Cambridge revealed that empathy isn't just a nice-to-have social skill. It's critical to our survival as a species. It turns out that our ancestors, who were more empathetic, were more likely to survive and reproduce. Why? Because empathy helps us form bonds, work as a team, and look out for each other. But don't worry if you sometimes struggle to put yourself in other people's shoes. The good news is that empathy is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. So the next time someone tells you about their problems, instead of looking for immediate solutions or minimizing their feelings, try simply listening and saying, "That must be hard, how do you feel?" You'll be amazed at the difference it can make. As Maya Angelou once said, "I have learned that people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel." Let's go to the fourth stop on this tour of attitudes that will make you as popular as a porcupine at a balloon party. Fickleness. Have you ever met someone who changes plans faster than a color chameleon? Today, he's your best friend. Tomorrow, he won't even answer your messages. He promises to help you with a project and then forgets. This, my friends, is fickleness in its natural habitat. Fickleness is like trying to build a house of cards in the middle of a hurricane. No matter how hard you try, it all comes crashing down at the least expected moment. But why is fickleness so damaging to our relationships? Well, it turns out that human beings are creatures of habit. We like predictability and stability, something that has been ingrained in our DNA since the days when knowing where to find food and shelter was a matter of life and death. A study conducted by the University of California showed that consistency in interpersonal relationships is one of the most important factors in building trust. And without trust, well, we're basically doomed to a life of loneliness surrounded by cats. Not that there's anything wrong with cats, but you get my drift. So, if you find yourself constantly changing your mind, canceling plans, or failing to keep your commitments, it's time to make a change. As the great Bruce Lee once said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." In other words, consistency is key. Try to start with small commitments and stick with them. If you say you're going to call, call. If you promise to be somewhere, be there. Little by little, you'll build a reputation as a reliable and consistent person. And believe me, that's worth more than all the gold in the world. Before moving on to the fifth attitude, if you are liking the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel with the bell so you don't miss future videos. And if you enjoy this type of content as much as I do, comment personal improvement. Let's keep learning together and improving our lives. Attitude number 5, lack of integrity. Imagine for a moment that you are in a restaurant. The waiter brings you a dish that smells delicious, has an impeccable presentation. But when you taste it, it tastes like cardboard. That, my dear friends, is what happens when someone lacks integrity. On the outside, everything looks perfect, but on the inside, well, let's just say it leaves a lot to be desired. Integrity is like underwear. We should all have it, but it's not something we go around bragging about. It's that quality that makes us act the right way, even when no one is looking. But why is integrity so important? Well, in addition to keeping you from becoming the villain in your own life story, integrity is critical to building strong, lasting relationships. A fascinating study conducted by Harvard University revealed that companies with a strong culture of integrity not only had happier employees, but were also more profitable in the long run. Coincidence, I don't think. Lack of integrity is like a slow poison. At first, you may not notice its effects, but over time it destroys everything in its path. Lying, cheating, speaking ill of others behind their backs, these are all manifestations of a lack of integrity that sooner or later will take their toll on you. As the great Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony." And let me tell you, my friend, there is nothing more attractive than a person who lives by his or her values. So the next time you are faced with a situation where you might take the easy way out at the expense of your integrity, remember, respect for others and respect for yourself are worth far more than any short-term gain. Let's go now to the sixth station on our attitude train. Lack of responsibility. Have you ever met someone who always has an excuse? You know, that friend who is late and blames it on traffic even though he lives 2 blocks away. Or that co-worker who never finishes their assignments on time because the universe conspires against them. Well, my friends, that's lack of responsibility in all its glory. Responsibility is like gravity. No matter if you believe in it or not, it still exists and affects everything you do. And like gravity, ignoring it can have some pretty painful consequences. But why is it so important to be responsible? Well, in addition to keeping you from becoming the laughingstock of your social circle, responsibility is critical to earning the respect of others, and most importantly, respect for yourself. A study conducted by Stanford University showed that people who take responsibility for their actions tend to be more successful in their careers and more satisfied with their lives overall. Surprising? Not really. After all, when you take responsibility, you take control of your life. Lack of responsibility is like playing who's to blame all the time. And let me tell you, that's a game everyone loses at. Blaming others, circumstances, or fate for your problems may seem easier in the moment, but in the long run, it only leaves you feeling powerless and frustrated. As the great writer George Bernard Shaw once said, people are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who make progress in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want, and if they don't find them, they create them. So, the next time you're tempted to make excuses or blame others for your problems, remember, taking responsibility may be uncomfortable at first, but it's the first step toward personal growth and respect from others. And, who knows, you may find that being responsible is like having a superpower that allows you to control your life and your destiny. Doesn't that sound so much better than being the eternal victim of circumstances? Now let's move on to the seventh attitude. Have you ever felt that your time is worth less than someone else's? Well, my friends, today we're going to talk about the attitude that makes people lose respect. Disrespect for other people's time, or as I call it, the art of making people want to strangle you with your own watch. Imagine this. You're waiting for a friend for dinner. 15 minutes go by, 30 minutes, an hour, and nothing. Finally, he shows up with a nonchalant smile and a, "Sorry, I'm late." If at that moment you feel like throwing the menu at his head, I don't blame you. Disrespect for other people's time is like a silent thief taking something you can never get back. And here comes the confession. I'm struggling with this problem myself. Yes, folks, ironic, isn't it? But at least I'm trying to change it. And getting organized is as hard as trying to comb a cat's hair with a fork. But we are not alone in this battle. The famous entrepreneur Richard Branson once said, "Respect is earned through excellence, consistency, and respect for other people's time." And boy, was he right. When you're late, you're not only wasting other people's time, but you're also sending a clear message: my time is more valuable than yours. And trust me, no one wants to be friends with someone like that. So how can we start being on time? Here are some tips I'm trying to implement. And yes, sometimes I fail, but it's the trying that counts, right? 1. The 10-minute rule. Plan to arrive 10 minutes before the appointed time. If you're early, great, you have time to relax. If there's traffic or something unexpected, you'll be right on time. 2. Be realistic with your time. If you know it takes 30 minutes to get ready, don't schedule yourself to do it in 15, unless you have superpowers, of course. 3. Learn to say no. Don't commit to doing more than you can. It's better to say no than to be late or not deliver. Use alarms. Set alarms for everything, yes, everything, even for breathing if necessary. Your phone is your best friend in this mission. 5. Prepare the night before. Leave everything ready the night before. Clothes, keys, documents, everything. That way in the morning, you'll only have to worry about not oversleeping. A Harvard University study revealed that punctual people are perceived as more reliable and competent. So if you want people to respect you, start by respecting their time. And remember, changing this habit is not easy. I still struggle with it. Sometimes I find myself running around like a headless chicken, trying to be on time. But every time I make it, I feel like I've won a small battle. So, the next time you're about to be late, think about this. Do you want to be the person everyone is waiting for with a smile, or the person everyone is looking at with an urge to strangle? The choice is yours. Attitude number 8 on our list is the inability to listen. And believe me, it's a more common habit than you think. But why is listening so important? Well, let me tell you a story that illustrates this point perfectly. Dale Carnegie, in his famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, relates a fascinating anecdote. One day, Carnegie attended a dinner party where he met a botanist. Although Carnegie knew nothing about botany, he spent the entire evening asking the expert questions about his field of study, showing a genuine interest in learning. At the end of the evening, the botanist told Carnegie that he was one of the most interesting people he had ever talked to. And you know what? Carnegie had barely said a word all night. All he did was listen carefully and ask questions. This story teaches us a valuable lesson. The art of listening not only makes us more interesting, it also helps us build deeper and more meaningful relationships. Now you may be wondering, how can I improve my listening skills? Well, here are some practical tips. First, practice active listening. This means that you don't just hear the words, but try to understand the message behind them. Imagine you are a detective trying to solve the mystery of what the other person really means. Second, stop thinking about your response while the other person is talking. I know it's tempting, but resisting this impulse will help you really focus on what they are saying. Third, ask relevant questions. This shows that you're paying attention and that you're really interested in what the other person is sharing. It's like playing conversational ping pong. The ball goes back and forth, keeping the game interesting for both of you. Fourth, avoid interrupting. I know it's hard sometimes, especially when you have a brilliant idea you want to share. But remember, every time you interrupt, it's like you're telling the other person, what I have to say is more important than what you're saying. And last but not least, what we mentioned before. Show empathy. Try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. How does he/she feel? What motivates him/her to say what he/she is saying? Now I propose a little challenge. In your next conversation, try to apply these tips. You'll be surprised how the dynamic changes when you really focus on listening. Remember, being a good listener will not only make you more respected, it will also open doors to new friendships, opportunities, and knowledge. As the Greek philosopher Epictetus once said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can hear twice as much as we speak. So the next time you find yourself in a conversation, think of Dale Carnegie's botanist. Will you be the one talking endlessly about your accomplishments and opinions, or will you be the one listening with genuine interest, making the other person feel valued and understood? And now let's move on to the 9th and last attitude, the lack of authenticity, or as I call it, the social chameleon syndrome. Do you know someone who changes their personality faster than they change their underwear? Inauthenticity is like wearing a mask 24 hours a day. You may fool some people for a while, but eventually the mask falls off and, surprise, no one knows who you really are. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus once said, "Character is the destiny of man." And boy, was he right. Your character, your true self, is what determines your path in life. When you try to be someone you are not only fooling others, you are fooling yourself. A fascinating study conducted by Cambridge University revealed that people who are authentic in their relationships report higher levels of satisfaction and well-being. Coincidence? I don't think so. Being authentic doesn't mean you have to share every thought that goes through your head. Please don't. It means being true to your values, your beliefs, and your essence. As Oscar Wilde once said, "Be yourself. The other positions are already filled." Remember, respect from others is not something you can demand, it is something you earn. And it is earned by small daily actions, by the way we treat others, and most importantly, by the way we treat ourselves. So, get out there, be authentic, listen to others, and who knows, you may find that respect from others is not only nice, but can also be the beginning of deeper, more meaningful relationships. And if all else fails, you can always get a cat. They will respect you, or at least pretend to, as long as you feed them. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "Respect is key," so I'll know who the victors are that made it to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more content like this in the future. Share this video with those who might find it useful, and consider supporting the channel by becoming a member, link in the comment posted. I have also included the link to my ebook in the comments. Now I recommend you watch one of these 2 videos to continue learning about Stoicism and human psychology. A big hug, and see you in the next video.